starting to record. Let me share my screen. Okay. So thank you to all of our webinar participants today. My name is Namita Ipe. I'm the VP of Institutional Partnerships at A-List Education, and we partner with the 1199 Union to deliver college admissions counseling and test prep to the families of union members. So we're really happy to be partnering with 1199 at this time, especially because of the contributions that the healthcare workers are making at this moment, and so very grateful for all of that, that we wanted to offer, in partnership with Dr. Ned Hallowell, some resources for managing stress and toxic worry during this time. I'd like to introduce Dr. Hallowell. Dr. Hallowell is a well-known child and adult psychiatrist, a New York Times bestselling author, and leading authority in the field of ADHD. As he goes by Ned, he hosts Distraction, a weekly podcast for thriving in crazy busy times, and is the founder of the Hallowell Centers in Boston, Manhattan, San Francisco, and Seattle. And he's joining us now from his home right outside of Boston. Welcome, Dr. Hallowell.
Well, it's very nice to be with you. And why don't you go ahead and put up the first slide?
All right.
Can I get rid of those pictures of the three of us so I can see what's on the slide?
Yes. So right above the pictures, there's a little small bar on the left. It says hide thumbnail video.
Okay, great.
And if you do that, that should get rid of us.
All right. Well, what I want to do with you in the time we have is try to make you feel better. You're doing amazing work. Those of you who are working in healthcare these days, truly amazing work. One of my patients is a pediatric ICU intensivist, and what he tells me is just incredible. You know, I said to him, "You're a hero," and he said, "No, I'm not a hero. I'm not falling on hand grenades. I'm just doing my job." But the job he's doing, and the job all of you are doing, is, in my way of thinking, heroic. It is a new world. Michael Grossbard, chief of hematology at NYU, said, "Our practice of medicine has changed more in 1 week than my previous 28 years combined." It truly is. It's an entirely new world in medicine for sure, but in the daily life of all of us. You can put on the next slide. People are losing lives. What's the number in the nation now? It's over 70,000. More lives have been lost than were lost in Vietnam. It is a devastating, crushing, daily loss of life. I live in Massachusetts, but I have an office in New York City, and 2 of our 3 children live in New York City. So I feel very tied into what's happening both in Boston and New York. And it's tragic. It's and not only the loss of life, but jobs and the economic crisis. You know, people who, the cobbler down the street, or the mom and pop store, or the florist shop, or the hair salon. Some of these businesses are ending and probably not to come back. Marriages and families in conflict, disease and distress absolutely rampant. And what makes it all the harder to deal with is we don't know what the future holds. We are living in a time of tremendous uncertainty. And so when you're dealing with a pandemic, when you're dealing with thousands of people dying every day, and businesses failing right and left, and people depleting their savings, and you don't know when it's going to end or how it's going to end, it's almost more than the spirit can bear. So what do you do about it? What do you do about it? And that's what I'd like to spend the rest of our time talking about. Um, I talk about the Dow Doom average. Dow meaning distress, overwhelm, and worry. Distress, overwhelm, and worry. That Dow average is skyrocketing. Next slide. And then we hear little slogans like "Don't worry, be happy." What? You know, I mean, these silly slogans that sound fine if it's a happy summer day and you're not living in a pandemic. But now silly slogans like that sound silly, and if not downright insulting. Don't worry, be happy. How can I not worry? And how can I be happy? Given all that's happening. I mean, you know, really, you know, you'd have to be Pollyanna to just say, oh, everything is fine. It's obviously not. Next slide. Well, I want to help you deal with it by talking about how you best deal with worry. How do you best solve problems? And the basic equation of worry, everyone is worried now, unless you're just not paying attention. So given the fact that there's all this worry, where does it come from? Well, worry is a feeling. Remember, worry is not a reality. Worry is an internal reality in the sense that it's a feeling that you have. And worry is created by increased feelings of vulnerability, coupled with diminished feelings of control. And as vulnerability, the feeling of vulnerability increases and your feeling of control decreases, you get rising feelings of what I call toxic worry. So remember those two, feelings of vulnerability rising and feelings of control going down, diminishing. As that happens, this terrible feeling of toxic worry increases. So the next slide. Now I say toxic worry because there is such a thing as good worry. If you didn't worry at all, that would be a problem. We call that denial. If there's a problem out there and you're not worried about it, you're avoiding it, that's a problem in its own right. So good worry that is your friend, is problem solving. So you have a mole on your forearm and you wonder, is that a malignant melanoma? And you worry about it, and that leads you to go to the doctor. So you do something about it. Or you get a notice from the bank that your checking account is overdrawn, and you say, how did that happen? Well, you investigate it and you find out where the leak was, and you do something to plug the leak. Whether it's you get a loan or you correct a mistake that the bank made, or whatever it might happen to be. That's good worry. Good worry is problem solving. Problem solving. Now, toxic worry, on the other hand, toxic worry is a force that paralyzes you. Far from solving problems, you obsess about the problem, you dwell on the problem, you globalize, you catastrophize, you blow it up into the most overpowering, crushing concern you could ever have. You leave the problem-solving mode and you enter into the paralyzed state of just imagining doom, and you sit there sort of transfixed and brooding, ruminating, a negative cascade of feelings going through your body. That's a terrible state to be in, the state of toxic worry. The next slide. So what you want to do, and however you do it, and we'll talk about ways to do it, what you want to do is reduce those feelings of vulnerability and increase the feelings of control. If you can do that, the toxic worry will subside and disappear, and you'll go into the problem-solving mode of good worry. Next slide. Now, why do I say feelings of? And this is an important point. It's because the reality is not what matters here. The reality is a matter of perception, honestly. But how you feel about the reality you perceive, that's the key thing. How do you feel about the reality you perceive? And you know, if you want to see what a difference the, you know, the reality you perceive, look at Fox on one hand and look at CNN on the other. They're both looking at the same world and they come out with radically different conclusions as to what's going on. We don't agree on what the reality is. So we perceive reality in our own subjective way. And then how we feel about it is what creates toxic worry or not. In other words, we're not changing the external reality. We're perceiving it usually in a not objective way, because no one is objective. We're perceiving it, and then we're processing it through our cognition and our emotional system, and we're coming out with a feeling about it. So we perceive whatever it is today, number of dead or hope for a cure, whatever we take bits of reality, and then we process them and come up with feelings. So it's your feelings of vulnerability and your feelings of diminished control that create toxic worry. So what you want to do is operate on those feelings. Now, in order to change the feelings, you may have to change the reality. You know, like I said, plug up the leak in your bank account, or go to the doctor and find out what that mole is. But what you're operating on are feelings. And in a way, that's very reassuring, because it's not the absolute reality that'll bring you down. It's how you react to it, what you do about it. If you can rise to the occasion, if you can, you know, come back strong, you have a much better chance of getting into the realm of good worry, problem solving. On the other hand, if you let the feelings just grow and overpower you, then you'll get paralyzed. So how do you raise those feelings of control and reduce those feelings of vulnerability? And let's go to the next slide. I have a 3-step plan that works very well. I've been working on this my whole career, and I've distilled it down to 3 steps. And these 3 steps will beat Prozac any day of the week, hands down. So it begins with connect. I call it the other vitamin C. Connect with somebody, connect with something outside of yourself. My motto is never worry alone. Never worry alone. Connect. So when you're worrying, don't worry alone. Don't isolate yourself. Don't go into retreat. Don't worry alone. And then step 2, get the facts. Now, these days, we live in an abundance of information. Some of it factual, most of it slanted. Try to have reliable sources for getting the facts. Have a good doctor or a good financial advisor or some news source that you trust. Hard to find because they're all so slanted now, but in any case, find a source that you trust. And then based on the facts, make a plan. You're always better off if you have a plan. You know, it doesn't matter if the plan succeeds or fails. If you have a plan, you'll be better off. With the melanoma, with the mole, even if it is a melanoma, you're better off having a plan to have it removed or having a plan not to have it removed, whatever. Because when you have a plan, you see, you feel more in control. The reality doesn't change. The mole is still there. But you feel more in control when you have a plan, and you feel less vulnerable. So you have basically taken over. You have a plan. Another example for people who are at home these days, it's good to have a structure to your day, a plan to your day, so you're not letting the day just wash all over you. So if you're at home with kids, try to have a plan. You know, when you get up, when do you have breakfast? Who does the dishes? Have a project that you're going to work on, or have a plan, because when you have a plan, you're more in control and less vulnerable. You're not just sitting there taking whatever bad news comes your way. Try to have a plan if you're at home with kids. Try to, you know, keep rituals, routines going so chaos doesn't take over. Again, it's all a matter of having a plan. Try to avoid letting the poison of too much news come into your home. Too much news, the news is all bad, you know, so you might get a little of it, but don't overdose on it. You really, it's very hard to watch. This news is more entertainment than news anyway, and it's pretty dismal entertainment. It's like a bad reality show. So stay away from the news and instead do things that are restorative for you. Maybe it's going for a bike ride if you're able to do that. Or maybe it's reading, or if you have kids, maybe reading aloud to your kids, or playing games like charades or something like that. Things that will get you interacting and again sort of take you out of the the negative part of what you might perceive to be reality. Those three steps: connect, never worry alone, get the facts, and then based on those facts, make a plan, will give you the feeling of remember, it's feeling. You're not changing the reality, but will give you the feeling of having more control and the feeling of being less vulnerable. And that will put you in a frame of mind where you're much better able to solve problems, where your body, your physiology will be healthier. Your immune system will be stronger. If you follow those simple steps every day: connect, get the facts, make a plan, and try to have a plan at the start of the day. Because these days, with all the uncertainty, the more control you can take, the better. You know, you want to control the things you can control: what you're going to have for breakfast, or what time of day you're going to go for a walk. Or every time you take control, you will feel better, even if it's over something small, like whether to use hand soap or liquid soap in the shower. I mean, every time you take control, you will feel better, even if the item you're controlling seems relatively trivial. Next slide, please. Now, these are the connections that I recommend, and really the solution to pretty much every problem in life comes back to connection. Most of the bad things in life derive from disconnection, and most of the good things in life derive from connection. Every study of well-being, happiness, longevity, success, health, every study of any significance has come to the same conclusion. It is the quality of your loving connections that determine not only how happy you are, but how long you live and how successful you are and how fulfilled you feel. The quality of your loving connections. It doesn't have to be to a person. It can be to a dog. In fact, dogs are, in many ways, the world's greatest connectors. In my opinion, it's no accident that God spelled backwards as dog. And then the connection to your family. Try to keep that as healthy as you can. Try to bear with one another. If you're all on top of each other living at home right now, give each other some space, tolerate each other, understand that people are going to have different moods and different reactions depending upon what's going on. The connection to your past. This is a wonderful time to sort of walk down memory lane, you know, call up your grandparents and learn about them, you know, while they're still around. Think back, reminisce with your friends, call high school classmates or college classmates or old fraternity brothers or sorority sisters, you know, reach out into your past if you have time. Your connection to the world of beauty, a song, a novel, a painting, connection to nature, connection to, if you can get outdoors, you know, you all are working in hospitals and you're indoors an awful lot. If you can get outdoors, just looking at a tree, you know, I mean, flowers, if you have flowers in the hospital. Food, connection to food. Food is love. Food is a great connector. You know, cafeterias are wonderful places to connect. When I was an intern, some of my happiest moments were 3 a.m. in the cafeteria over a cup of coffee and a donut, you know, and food is simple food is a great connector, a hot dog, you know. Favorite TV show? This is a great time if you're home for binge watching one thing or another. Get back into Game of Thrones if you're into that, or get back into West Wing. A lot of people I know are rewatching West Wing. Right now, my wife and I are watching a wonderful series set in Ireland called Normal People, about two young people who fall in love and follows them along. Favorite place to relax? Do you have a place at work, you know, that you go to? It might be the bathroom, maybe the one place you can relax, but is there a place at work where you can relax? A corner in the cafeteria, some place where you can go and take 5 minutes even to chill. Neighbors, now we're doing it in a distant way, but I don't like the term social distancing. I like the term physical distancing because we want to try to preserve social closeness, social connection. That is what we need now, that other vitamin C, the connection to one another. And as I'm saying, it's not just to people. Bar, lounge, place to escape, those are gone. So we don't have bars, lounges, restaurants right now. But a place to escape, upstairs in a secret room, or not a secret room, but a special room, or a place in the hospital where not many people go, a place to escape, a place where you can feel the reassurance and the stability of solitude, where you don't feel lonely, but you can be alone and sort of take strength from yourself and whatever else comes to mind. When you are alone, you can let whatever your sources of inspiration and strength, just wash through your system. Organization, activities, your connection to where you work, the mission of the hospital, all of you hospital workers, you're noble. You're serving a very noble cause and believe in it, take strength from it. The whole country is admiring you right now. And that's heartfelt. That's not a slogan. We're all so grateful to you. The spiritual connection, I define that as your connection to whatever it is that's beyond knowledge. It's not dogma, it's not catechism, it's not memorizing the 10 Commandments. It's your connection to what is beyond knowledge. There's stuff we know, and then there's stuff we don't know. Where do you go after you die? Where did you come from? What's your purpose in being here? Where does the circle begin and end? The connection to that in this very scientific age, we often say, well, we can't answer it, so it's not worth thinking about. Well, that's just not true. It's very worth thinking about. And in that space, in that contemplation of what is beyond knowledge, the spiritual connection grows. It may take the form of faith. It may take the form of hope. It may even take the form of despair. You may feel, because I don't know, I have no hope. Because of all that's bad that's happened, I feel desolate and at the end. And, and in that space, even of despair, you can develop a spiritual connection. In fact, many people have done exactly that. When you're at the end and you don't know where to turn, something happens inside of you. Something happens. And that could be the beginning, the little nubbin, the little tendril poking up through the frozen tundra of some kind of spiritual connection, some kind of line of hope, some kind of intimation, not faith, but an intimation of the possibility of something greater than personal needs and the desolation you see around you as you're in the hospital, feeling the terror and the abysmal conditions, and you stop, something stirs within you, some intimation. That can be the beginning of a spiritual connection. I guess my hope is that you'll let it happen. Don't quickly snuff it out and say, oh, that's ridiculous. Oh, that's sentimental. That's nonsense. Let it happen just as you let the wind happen, or just as you let the smell of someone's perfume who walks past you happen. Let this intimation happen. Don't snuff it out. Don't brush it away as if it were nonsense, because it's anything but. Traditions, rituals, I talked about that earlier. Allowing yourself to follow certain traditions and rituals can be very stabilizing, can be very affirming, can allow you to feel a kind of strength in reenacting traditions that matter to you. And your connection to work for kids at school, but for you all, it's work, and it's such important work. And feeling the connection to that purpose, the connection to that cause, the connection to that greater, greater than yourself. And you all are such emblems of that, you know, for the entire country. You're doing the work that everyone admires and thanks you for. Next slide.
Oh, Dr. Hallowell, can we actually talk about music? Because we didn't get to do that
Oh,
one.
we didn't do music. I'm sorry. How could I ever overlook music? One of my favorite connections. The connection to music is something you hopefully will have with you always and take it with you everywhere. The music is one of the best uplifters, one of the best stabilizers, one of the best sources of inspiration. And now I think it's the final slide. I would love to take your questions. And as I said, I'm very grateful to all of you for the work you do. If you have any questions, please let us know.
So we have our Director of Marketing, Anthony Sarchapone, who's helping us with the moderating the questions. So Anthony, if we have any questions in the chat, if you could let Dr. Hallowell know.
Yes, if anybody has questions, you can submit them through the Q&A. We do have a couple of questions. Thanks very much, Dr. Hallowell, for this presentation today. First question we have is, how do I explain to my supervisor at work that I'm finding it difficult to manage my stress?
Just say it straight out. I mean, you know, obviously you don't blurt it out in the middle of, you know, a meeting or something, but you want to let him know or her know. That's why the supervisor is there. And don't think it's weakness, it's strength. When you can say, I'm having a hard time managing what's going on, just that act of sharing will make you feel better. As long as the supervisor receives it, the supervisor may say, I'm sorry, I know it's hard on all of us, and that may be the sum and substance of it. But just that is enough to put you in a better place. Don't bottle it up, don't sit on it, and certainly don't feel ashamed of it. It's not as if you in any way, you know, shouldn't tell him. That's why he or she is there. Never worry alone. Remember, it's the first rule.
Also, I know we're all thinking about this toxic worry. Here's a great question for those of us who have to, you know, with children. How do we talk with our children about toxic worry? They have school issues, and this pandemic is a lot for them to handle.
Yeah, with kids, don't lecture, listen. Open the door and then let them ask questions and follow their questions. Don't think you have to make it all better. Don't think you have to rewrite the world. Just find out what their questions are and then follow along. And their questions will usually be very simple. Will everything be okay? With young kids, just say yes. Okay, you don't have to give a long disclaimer about how you don't know. As they get a little bit older, you can say, well, we're all working very hard to make sure things will work out. And then tell them things you do know. We love you, you are loved, we're not going away, we will be here for you. And that's really their concern. Are you going to be here for me? And you know the answer to that is yes. So give them reassurances on the things that you can honestly reassure them about, and be open to their questions. They'll tell you what's on their mind if you just, you know, listen. Don't lecture. Don't do what I'm doing right now. Listen.
And this might be a sort of a similar question, is how can I support a friend who's feeling hopeless when I feel hopeless as well?
Oh, that's such a great question. And it, you know, it's sort of, I mean, not to get too philosophical on you, but that's the human condition right there. That's, you every play Samuel Beckett ever wrote. I mean, that how do we reassure one another when there's no reassurance to be had? How do we reassure one another when we're all going to die? How do we reassure one another when neither one of us has direction? Neither one of us has resources. Neither one of us has power. Neither one of us is immortal. Neither one of us has control. How do we do it? Well, the answer is by connecting. See, that's the answer. It's not the answer that makes everything right. We don't have that. We don't have the answer that makes everything right. In fact, in the long run, everything's wrong. We die. Okay, so that's the basic condition of life. And not only do we die, we usually suffer before we die. We lose people, other people die. Life is loss. Life is one loss after another. So, we can't change that. But what we can do is connect. That's the greatest tool we've got. At its most distilled, we call that love. You can't go around loving everyone, but you can go around connecting openly, with vulnerability, with honesty, with transparency. Naked. Here I am. There you are. We're shivering in the dark in this very uncertain world. And your question cuts right to the heart of it. How can I reassure someone when I myself need reassurance? Well, the answer is by owning that fact. And then you connect with one another. And the act of connecting becomes the reassurance. The act of connecting openly, honestly, nakedly becomes the reassurance. If you do it, you'll discover how true that is. And it's really all we've got when you come right down to it. You can add in faith in God. I happen to be an Episcopalian, and I have my intimations. I have my version of faith, but I don't know. No one knows. Faith is just that. It's hope. So none of us knows for sure. We hope, and if we hope together, that's why I go to church, to hope together, to hope that things do work out, to hope that there is some way of getting through this veil of tears without too much pain.
Well, thank you for that answer. Thank you for that very thoughtful answer. We have another question. For those of us stuck in maybe a cycle of toxic worry, any examples, are there any examples of how to regain control over our negative feelings when we feel overwhelmed by them?
Well, very much come back to never worry alone. I mean, it is a matter of never worry alone, get the facts, make a plan. And, that will bring you out of toxic worry if you do it. Now, the problem is the cruel fact is when you are feeling that worried, you often don't want to connect. You often don't dare to connect, or you feel there's no one who wants to listen to you. There's no one who cares. And how could they care? You don't blame them for that, but there's no one who feels the desperation you feel. By the way, that's why everyone should have a dog, because believe me, the dog will care. And I just can't recommend dogs highly enough. But when you feel that way, if you can possibly get yourself to do it, talk to somebody. And it doesn't have to be about the problem. In fact, often it's better not. Talk about your favorite recipe for chocolate cake, or what you think is going to happen to the Giants and the Jets. Will they have a season? Or something that's not in any way heavy, to get your mind to a different place, to change your mindset, so to speak. You don't have to have solutions. What you need to have is a connection.
That's great. I think that was our last question. I know we're about 45 minutes into the talk, so Namita, I'm going to pass it back over to you, Namita, if you have anything to wrap up or add.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Hallowell, for those words, and really some good food for thought as to what we should be focusing on in this time, especially for our union members who are on the front lines of seeing the worst of it, and who really need that sort of support. And it's nice to know we can provide something for them. I would like to also thank Anthony for your help today in getting this webinar off the ground, and then invite you all to our upcoming webinars. We have one on Wednesday the 13th, again with Dr. Hallowell, this time supporting students with ADHD in times of remote learning. This is a huge challenge for many parents at this time, with with all of the tasks that the students need to do and none of that structure that they've had previously in school. So that will be really useful. We also have on the 14th, what do test optional policies really mean for students? Because that is a big concern right now for any high school student considering applying to college. What does that mean when they go test optional? Is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? And then finally on Thursday, May 21st, we have creating a college list using virtual resources as your guide. Since visiting campuses is not feasible within the near future, how can you do your research virtually to help narrow down your college list? So these are all our upcoming events and webinars that we'll be hosting. Would love for any and all to join. And I thank you all for joining us today. Wishing you the very best evening, and we are here to support you here at A-List. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Hallowell. Thank you, Ned.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.